Welcome to Girl Talk with your host, Melissa Ann. Girl Talk is that show which discusses the real issues Black women face being a mom, a dad, a wife, a girlfriend, a sister, a co-worker, a therapist, or whatever hat Black women wear on any particular day. Why? Because Black women are just dope. Without further ado, here is your host, Melissa Ann.
All right. We here tonight with Girl Talk with the boys. The boys are back by popular demand and we're jamming. But our topic tonight is angry Black man, angry Black woman. We could kind of talk through as well some of the things we could do to dispel that stuff, because what we can do to dispel that really hits us in our pocket. So Day and Roosevelt were having a great conversation on how do you invest? What are some of the things that you could do? We could touch on some of those topics as well. But for the most part, you know, we tonight we want to talk about what are those stereotypes we commonly hear. There's the angry Black woman, there's the angry Black man, and neither of us most times are angry. We may be loud, we may have passion, we may exert energy, but we're not all the time angry. Now you can push our buttons till we get angry, but I don't know if anyone actually wants to see us at those levels. So without further ado, guys, what are your thoughts on the angry Black man and the angry Black woman? How do you define it?
It's amazing how we get these labels and stereotypes, and I think the topic is perfect. Stereotypes, right? But we can be just as assertive, confident,
Yep.
eloquent, just as any other human being on this planet. But why is it that we even have these terms, angry Black man and angry Black woman? Where do they really
Yeah.
originate from?
Yeah, where do they originate from? Do you know?
Yeah, it originates from how they portrayed us back in the days as savages and animals, as angry.
I think sometimes if you yell a lot, you don't keep your composure, and I think that kind of leads to that. So sometimes it's better to be probably the best way is to use our words instead of getting angry, saying, because a lot of times usually when women end a conversation, I'm going to hit you in the head or something like that. That usually doesn't help the situation. And so usually when you hit someone in the head, you usually have to be angry. But for the most part, it is a stereotype. Not most women are going around trying to bang people in the head.
I never heard nobody say what kind
Yeah,
of
I'm
women
over
you
here.
date.
I'm over here like
Unfortunately, I meet a
I
lot
don't
of
know.
women who want to bang me in the head.
I don't know if y'all saw me. I don't know if y'all saw me looking around. I was like, what?
So Rosebud, I want to know what women you dating that's hitting you upside the head.
I'm
Like
joking.
what angry Black women
No,
out
no,
there
but the thing
hitting
is,
folks upside the head?
no, I'm joking, but that's just usually a stereotype you hear. When women start raising their voice, there's usually violence following.
Yeah, I don't hear a lot from brothers, actually. I hear it in the workplace more so, or the stereotypes that people put on you. I haven't heard really, a couple of times I've heard, from some Black men, like, don't let them see you act like an angry Black woman. But what the hell does that mean?
Right.
Like, is there an angry white woman? Is there an angry Asian woman? Is there a angry Indian woman? What does angry Black woman mean, and where did it come from?
Well, I don't know where it came from, but I know I know the image it portrays
Mm-hmm.
on in corporate.
Yeah.
But go ahead, Rasbo.
No, I thought you broke it down at it to its essence, man. I think it may have originated where you stated from the original stereotypes,
Hmm.
about us being savages, So I think it has morphed though to Melissa's point. I think nowadays, unfortunately, it's uh it's convenient to use. It's a convenient stereotype.
Mm.
It could be used as a protection mechanism. Actually puff yourself up. Kids do it. I've done it myself as a child, thinking that you're going to get some credit just off the strength that you are Black. You know, I've heard people say all kinds of things, and I reckon they were resting on the fact that they were Black. To back up their talk. So I think that embracing of it further perpetuates it. Of course, there are other things that perpetuate it. That's not the only thing, but it is something that we can control. So for my part,
Yeah,
I divorce myself of it.
I like that. Divorce yourself. But do black men hear it often?
I think
Mm,
I'm consciously aware of it.
Yeah.
I am.
no, but do you hear the stereotype as much as you hear the stereotype of angry black
Yeah,
woman?
because what happens
No,
is
no.
because
No,
they
you don't.
expect you.
The angry black woman is that's the
Yeah,
one.
that's
That's
the pinnacle.
yeah.
Well, unfortunately, when you look at YouTube, you look at TikTok, you always see an African American woman yelling, screaming, and she's mad, she's upset, she's ready to fight, and I think that's where a lot of it comes from.
Why are they angry in the first place?
There's usually something going on, and they usually catch the person at their worst, and they put it on those like YouTube, Snapchat, Instagram,
Because
but
say you mess them, it goes deeper than that, brother. It goes deeper than that.
because she's yelling and
You got
screaming.
well for what? Because she probably got with somebody, had a kid, the dude ran off, left her. I mean, look how many single mother households we have in our community.
Yeah.
You will see why they are angry. You got cats leaving a chick at 3 months with a 3 month old, and what is she got to go figure it out.
Or longer,
and
like
and and then
myself, you know?
right, and then you wonder why we do have angry black women.
Yeah, but not only are you the single mother piece of it, they got to worry about their sons, their daughters going out in the world. Are they going to come back home? Whether that's the streets are going to get them, whether that's police brutality. There's a lot of things in putting food on the table, then going to work, dealing with being called that, or dealing with the adversity that happens at in your workplace or with your relationships, and then having to deal with all of the things as a single person or single mother that come along with being that, buying the food, paying the bills, making sure the kids have some food to eat. All of those things come along with it. But to Roosevelt's point, we do have TV shows that portray us in a fashion that will make others think that that's the way all black women act.
For sure.
No, what you're saying makes complete sense. I mean, if you have a 30-second snapshot, and that's the snapshot you see, that's the message you're left with. That's the impression you're left with.
Right.
And there's always two sides to every story, and if you're only hearing one story, what story are you going to believe?
Right. Or are you trying to, cuz I didn't realize in my own journey that sometimes when you don't want to portray the angry black woman, individuals will poke you because they believe it's in there. So they continue
Mm,
to poke and poke and poke and poke. So they could then say, oh, there it is, the angry black woman. They want to see it in action. Like it's a freaking sideshow in a circus act.
So Roosevelt and I, we were on a beach trip with our families years ago, and we were on the pier fishing. And a white gentleman walks up and said, "Oh, you guys must be football players." Remember that, Roosevelt?
Yeah.
No, 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 no. I'm an engineer, and he's a doctor.
what
So,
is
so,
what?
so one thing as big black men like myself, the thing we get pigeonholed is Kai, the big black guy.
Mhm.
You know, I'm just as smart and probably smarter and more capable than most people I work with. But the only thing they can focus on is you must have played football. Look how big you are. Oh my God, how much do you bench? And so I have to make sure that I steer the conversation back to the conversation at hand. How are we going to close these deals? Because I can get pigeonholed as kind of black guy who only talks about sports, but who really can, sell Ray to a roach.
If you're a large African American male, the only way you can go to school is through athletics. Or if you went to school through athletics, you don't have much of an education, you know.
Hmm.
And people just don't. I mean, those are the stereotypes.
Yep.
Unfortunately, behind every stereotype, there's some level of truth. But there are exceptions to the rule, and you have to understand not everyone is like that. And now the thing you got to understand now is that we have to take the opportunities that are given to us to change those stereotypes. But Kai is right. I mean, we have that's how most African American guys are viewed. They expect you to be like, for some reason, like people think all African Americans are lazy. I don't know how
Right.
that comes. I don't know how that comes along.
Right. Not when you had
Um,
us in the fields for 400 years. That's not
Yeah.
lazy.
You know how many patents there are that the slaves created?
Exactly.
Thousands of them.
Jack Daniels is probably the most successful.
Jack Daniels, I mean, stuff, elevators, horseshoes. It goes on and on and on
Hmm.
of the things because they had to in order to do their jobs. They had to create these things
Hmm.
Oh, yeah,
that they don't get credit for. There's a long list of the items. And I say that to say is that we are very smart people. We are smart, we are adaptable. We are individuals that could create something from nothing. And I think that gets lost when we step into a room and those stereotypes are already there. The big black man or the angry black woman has now entered the room. You lose the sight of what our capabilities are. There's a lot of elements that go into it. But I rarely hear, the angry black man. I just don't hear it. I don't hear a lot from you guys, but I think you guys are more mellow than women are. Like you don't get frazzled quickly if something happens to you.
I think that goes to my earlier point of me always being cognizant of how I'm being perceived. You feel me? So some people flip. I've seen it in the office. People flip. I don't see myself doing that and it being productive for me. Some people it works for. They could flip out, and whatever the reason is whatever the reason is. But I happen to be black, and so I'm thinking that for me, nah, I'm good. I'll stay mellow.
Yeah, you guys are. Like, and it's always like I'm always wondering what you're thinking as a black man because you don't get excited. You don't, you say like Kai said, like that. Those are kind of the things that you say. You see it, but you're not reacting to it. And I think that's where black women fall short sometimes because we see it and we got to be like, I know for myself, like, oh, you're not punking me. I went through X, Y, and Z, so now I gotta let you know that you can't punk me. And it has taken a lot of work not to get there to do what Kai does, just walk away or say, and keep it moving.
Well, I mean,
Hmm.
when you think about it in the most extreme case, I think it might come into a better light for you. The extreme case is in front of police.
Yeah,
There's sometimes where stuff gets said, and you might want to say something, but you can't say anything. You know what the consequences are. You can say whatever you want, but you know what the consequences are. So I think that gives you a peek
that's
into
the piece.
the other realm, where I was going earlier, is divorcing yourself from those emotions and just looking at the situation for what it is and realizing what your goal is and what you want to happen and the best way to get there, and doing that instead of being a slave to whatever your emotions are.
Right.
Mm.
That is the piece. The consequences. You don't understand what because there are
It's
Hmm.
consequences.
always consequences.
There are consequences.
Grown man, and grown women choices come with grown man and grown woman consequences.
That's right.
And you got to be grown man and grown woman enough to accept those consequences.
Right.
That was day one when I joined the United States Navy. I was 17 years old, straight out of Brooklyn. Got before they let us off the bus in San Diego for boot camp. That was what they told us,
Wow.
and that's how I raised my kids. Grown man and grown woman decisions and choices come with those consequences, and you got to be grown man and grown woman enough to deal with it.
I didn't get that speech at home. Did
Nope,
you?
I had to get that in the military, and then
Right.
there's the school of hard knocks.
Yeah, you gotta learn the hard way. That was
Hmm.
me.
Live and learn. That we all
Yeah,
do.
yeah. Gotta learn the
What's
hard
another
way.
stereotype? What's
Because probably the biggest stereotype is that most African Americans aren't intelligent,
Yeah.
or that you
mm,
can't read, or the thing that's always amazing to me is when people say, "Boy, you speak real well."
You speak so well.
you're so articulate.
I mean, when people tell me that, I always ask them, "Can you spell articulate?"
Of course you
But
do.
what does that even mean? Right?
Right.
Oh
Right? What
no.
does that even mean?
Well, you got to understand. They have such a negative view of African Americans. They tried to make Ebonics as another language.
True.
I mean, they really, some senator actually thought it was a great idea to take slang and make it its own language. I mean, they stopped teaching cursive in school, but they want to teach Ebonics. They've made, I mean, seriously, you can write cursive. Cursive, to some kids, cursive is a foreign language.
Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely.
I mean, how do you sign your name? What, are you just making X's?
Leave your mark.
I mean, seriously, you gotta seriously look at that.
Now,
I mean,
that's
that is really, really. I mean, you really got to look at that. They're taking us back. I mean, you got to understand. If you don't understand from history, you're doomed to repeat it. They're not teaching cursive. How are you going to sign your name in a document if you don't know how to make how you make a cursive letter?
I don't want to tear too deep into it, but people always come up with a bright idea, like to how to reach the kids. And I think that was part of it, like speak their language, boom, boom, boom. I have no idea about it. I'm not trying to speak like I do. I don't. I have no clue. But that was the Ebonics thing. And I mean, kudos to them, I guess, for trying to reach out to the kids. Somebody needs to reach out to them, right?
I
yeah,
think
yeah,
it's more than
yeah,
that. It's more than that.
yeah.
Black people
I'll be
have,
honest. With you.
yeah, I think black people have lazy tongues. So sometimes we don't articulate well because our tongue is lazy.
I'm offended.
You know
You're
what?
saying I have a
No,
lazy.
We don't have lazy
we
tongues.
do.
We
Yes,
no,
we
don't
do.
have lazy
Yes,
tongues.
we do.
We don't have
Our
we don't.
words sometimes do not. If you don't concentrate on articulating your words, you gonna slip up.
No.
Is a lazy tongue like a sleepy eye?
CPI.
I'm over here like, hold on. That shit sound like, you know what I'm saying? Like you got,
You know what? You know what the funny thing is? You know what, man? I'll be honest with you. Those are just bad habits in
oh
slang.
god,
I mean, those are just bad habits in slang.
yeah, it's
Because
just
I tell
bad
you what,
habits. That's all.
Let's Google it. Lazy
Nah,
tongue.
Yeah, Google
ain't
lazy
ain't no
tongue.
ain't no lazy.
no,
T-
I
ain't no
can almost
lazy.
guarantee you that's not no such thing as no lazy tongue.
And that's it. Lazy tongue syndrome is the first damn thing that pops up. I know what I'm talking about.
You don't have no lazy tongue syndrome.
I
No.
don't, because I pronounce my damn going words. But I'm saying
You know what?
there's
You know what the
some
funny
people
thing
that
is?
don't.
When I was growing up, I used to say "ain't" all the time, and my parents used to drive my parents crazy. So my dad said, if you say "ain't" one more time, I'm going to give you a whipping.
A whipping? That's not. Yeah, I'm sure your father didn't say it that way.
Well, this is PG. This is G rated.
Yeah. You,
But
my dad corrected me. I couldn't say ain't got no. I couldn't say ain't. I couldn't say any of those. I ain't got no. If I said I'm sorry, he'd be like, no, 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 no. You're not sorry. You're intelligent. So
You know
there.
what the funny thing is? You got to understand. Like, my family was Haitian. There wasn't a lot of doing, a lot of talking, a lot of explaining. You were told once, you were told twice, and after the second time, you just caught a whipping. The belt came out, and there was a lot of leather being flown. I mean, if you watch that Boondock show with the grandpa whipping the belt around, that's how it was like in our house. I mean, those whippings going around for
That was
everybody.
like that in my house, and I'm just regular old black.
Yeah, but there are whippings going around. Lazy tongue, no tongue. Shoot, your tongue get in gear real quick.
I think
Well,
I think it's the culture, Melissa. I think there are elements of black culture that aren't conducive to producing good uh, images of our people. There's a lot of that out there. I mean, there's a lot of gangster mentality that's out there that people embrace heavily. That angry black woman, the whole thing you were talking about, snapping your neck, doing this, doing it. That whole thing is it's embraced by a lot of folks in the community.
I agree.
It just is.
Yeah. People are angry. I think emotions too play a part in it. Well, I would say this. I think social media, like you said, plays a big part in it. Our music plays a big part of it. But people are cut off from being emotionally attached to anyone because we have these. I don't have to pick up the phone and necessarily talk to you. I could text you. There's no emotional attachment. When I'm done talking to you, I stop responding to the message. So that plays a part in our society and how people react and the things that they do. You know, it's okay for me to rob you. I don't know you. I don't have no natural attachment to you. I can shoot you. I don't have any emotional attachment. I don't have those feelings. Great conversation, talking about what some of the stereotypes are, but what we don't see is the strides that we're making. So Kai, you talked about, someone coming up to you and saying, "What are you, football players?" And it was probably really profound to that individual. And he's like, "Nah, he's a doctor and I'm an engineer. Now what?" Right. So how do what are some of the things that we as a community can do to hit ourselves in our own pockets? I know, Rasbo and Roosevelt, you were talking about investing. Those are things that we could do that we don't know. What are some tips and tricks we could give folks that we just don't know that are available to us?
I would say be realistic. I mean, if you have something that you want, know what it takes to get there, and or learn what it takes to get there, and do those things. Like, say for instance, you want to be rich. There's things that you need to do, and just to set up your accounts, you need a savings account. You need a cushion to fall back on. You need a retirement account. You need to be putting away for your future.
Roosevelt, you have a multiple streams of income. Kai, you're working on that. So are you, Rasbo. I am working on it with my writing, but I don't have it. So how do we, teach others to not react, but react by hitting yourself in the pocket?
Probably the first thing you need to do is find out what you're comfortable is or comfortable with. What makes you comfortable? Like Derek said it best. You have to come up with a plan of action and what your goals are and how you want to get to those goals. My biggest thing is that as African Americans, we need to have more physical assets. Because what people don't realize is when you have assets, like a lot of times, a lot of these guys who speak a lot of these gurus, when we buy products, Africans are the largest consumers of things. So what happens is when we buy things, we should buy things that generate us an income. So when you buy a house, you don't have to buy a $500,000 house. You could buy a $250,000 house and then use another 150 to go buy a rental property that generates income. That's one way of doing it. Another thing could be doing is some people like the concept of paying yourself, taking 10% out of your salary and putting it in a savings account. Well, not a savings account, in a stock portfolio. Don't put any money in a savings account. It's not worth it. The reason why I say don't do a savings account is that they're giving you 0.03%. So I have to give you $3 for them to give me a penny. So the thing you have to understand is that if they're giving out 1 cent for every $3 you put in, it's not even worth putting it in. You're better off putting it in an IRA or putting it in just a index fund, because you're going to make more than 1/3 of a cent. See, and the funny thing is that a lot of this stuff is not as complicated as it sounds. But for the most part, I mean, there is a learning curve into it. But like everything else, you need to learn. I mean, that's why reading is good for us to understand. But for the most part, if you don't understand what's going on with your money, you won't have any money. So what people don't understand is the fact that you're geared to go to school and get a job. Everyone tells you that. Go to school, get a good job. Go to school, get a good job. No one ever says, go to school, learn the fundamentals of accounting, get a good idea, market that idea, and become self-employed. They don't have entrepreneur classes.
Because that's not how capitalism works. But we can have that. We can talk about that conversation. That should be capitalism.
You know what? You're right. You're right, because a young lady just told me today that capitalism only works if there's someone on the bottom. There can
That's
only be
right.
so many few people on the top.
That's right.
Hey,
That's
y'all,
right.
y'all, are we? What are we saying? Y'all against capitalism?
No, I'm not
Me?
saying no, 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 no. We're not saying.
I'm a firm believer of capitalism. I
Okay.
mean,
I'm just saying
Why?
what he
So
was saying was the reason is because capitalism. That's just how it works.
I think framing it like that is unhealthy. Saying that capitalism requires somebody to be at the bottom. Necessarily, new people are born into this world every day in this country. They take part in capitalism. We've all been through stuff. There's time crappy apartments, daggone this stuff that you go through is this. It's just the way it is. I mean, that stuff isn't necessarily supposed to go away. I mean, is everybody supposed to be born and just living in a mansion somewhere? That's unsustainable.
the good thing about capitalism that I think is that it gives everybody a shot. That's it. I mean, you get your shot. If you work real hard, you apply yourself, you can be successful.
There's gonna be people on here that say, "Well, what is capitalism?" That listen, what is your definition of capitalism?
Free enterprise. You buy low, sell high. That's the best way. That's the best way to put it. Now, capitalism is great. You gotta learn the rules before you play the game. Unfortunately, we never learn the rules. So when we play the game, it's always a mess.
People don't want to learn the rules.
That's it.
Well,
But that's the part.
maybe there's a system in place that keeps the rules from us.
You know what the funny thing is? You're right. I don't want to say there's a system in
I think they're
place,
both right.
but the funny thing is, though, the rules of the game are on the shelves of the library. And as long as you got a library card, you have access to those rules.
Tips of your
Amen.
fingers, man. Usually people are carrying around phones. That's a wealth of information. Just Googling information.
That's
And
right.
you know what? You're right.
There's videos about
But
everything.
you don't know where to start. First of all, second of all,
You know what? You got to start somewhere.
you got to start somewhere. But we just talked about in the beginning. If I'm a single mother and I'm barely putting food on my table, do I have enough money to even put into a savings account? Do I have
Yes.
enough time?
Yeah.
No, I
Yes,
don't.
yes, you do.
Yeah, you
You
do.
absolutely do. You can't afford not to. You
Tell
can't
me
afford
where I
not
got
to.
money when I'm check to check.
10 years, 10 years, 20, 15 years, 20 years is going to pass regardless of what you do. Whether you save money or you don't save money, the time is still going to pass. So it's best to save the money, is what I'm saying. Now, is it
But
going to
where
be?
is it coming from? I was at a point where I couldn't even afford heat and hot water.
You have to invest in yourself. I mean, what Derek is saying, you got to invest in yourself. And the thing is, though, you're right. It is tough. It is very tough when you're a single mother. It's very, very, very tough. But the thing is, though, too, there's a lot of things that we could be doing that we could be cutting corners. Like if you got a salary, and then your salary, you have to take a certain percentage to save, and maybe doing the stock market might not be the thing for you. But there's a wealth of information on YouTube.
We're not connecting. It's going to be a longer conversation. Because what I'm trying to say is if you check the check, where is the money that you're saving? Where is it coming from?
Anytime you're starting out, if you got it in your mind, like, hey, I need to start investing. I need to start working towards, building my fortune or saving for my future. If there's things in your past that you have to take care of and get squared away, it's unfortunate, but a lot of folks, we find ourselves in that situation. It could be stuff you did, maybe mistakes you made as a kid. Maybe you got a little blemish on your record. Maybe you didn't study in school or something. Maybe you don't know as much as every other person. Maybe you don't talk as eloquently as other people. We all have disadvantages that we got to work with, and like finding a wiggle room and a budget. That's a very tough thing. I mean, trying to squeeze blood from a rock. I feel you, but the fact still remains: the method for building wealth, the methods for building wealth still remain the same, and it's just a matter of finding a way out of nowhere.
So where do you tell before we, end the conversation? What's the first place you tell someone who doesn't have anything?
ten
That's check to
dollars,
check,
five
have
dollars. You can't
$5
come up with
and do
$5.
what?
A savings account. You open a savings account right now today. You could open a T-Mobile money savings account. I know Roosevelt doesn't feel it, but you get 1%. That's about the most you're gonna get.
So that's actually better than 0.3%. That's fine.
Exactly. You get 1%. They give you a card where you can use your debit card at the Alltel locations for free. No nothing. They don't have any minimums. Excuse me for using Ink. You could use that card. Get 1%. That's good. You could go to Chase. They'll let you open up a Roth IRA if you're low income under 140K. That's crazy to say. That's low. If you're under 140K, then you could contribute up to $6,000 to your Roth IRA. The money you put in there, heaven forbid you need to take it out, you could take that money out tax and penalty free. It's only the interest that you accrue that you can't take out without penalty. So it's almost like a savings account, but with a little boost towards your future. Those two things are important. Just the first steps as far as building because you want to build a framework for your fortune. A multi-millionaire doesn't have all their money socked away in one savings account and that they've been stocking money away to. You have to, money likes to move. So you got to create the structures and you got to have the accounts so you can move that money, invest it, save it, do what you got to do.
What Derek is saying makes sense because what happens is, it's not the interest you're living on. It's that if you stock away like say for instance, every pay period, you stick $10 away every pay period. I mean, that's roughly $20 a month. Over time, that $20 a month adds up. And then as you take that money, you're able to take that money and put it in this area. Like, believe it or not, you're able, there are some banks that will give you, if you deposit, you make a deposit. They'll give you $200 to make a deposit. You go in there, you make a deposit, you keep the money in there, you just doubled your money. Now you got $400. You take $400, then you go get an index fund. And believe it or not, you can do this stuff. You can watch a video on on YouTube. And then, to believe it or not, as you start learning of different things, like you'll get a concept off YouTube, then you go read about it in the library. You get this concept, you go read about it. You have to invest and you have to learn in how to make this grow. If you want to be able to take advantage of the tax code, it's probably in your interest to read some of the new tax codes out there.
There you go. Thinking about things, Roosevelt, you hit the nail right on the head. Thinking about those things, even if it's 10, 15, 20 minutes a day, setting up your accounts, making sure you're funding those accounts on a regular basis. Every time you get paid, you're socking a little bit of money away. If a bank is offering a promotion where you put your money over there and they'll give you $250 after a few months, then you do that. Take advantage of that. Get that money, and like Roosevelt said, use that money that you get to go ahead and buy an ETF, buy a VOO or VTI, and just an index fund. If those go to zero, even if you kept the money, it wouldn't be worth anything. So it's safe. It's fine. As far as, relative, it's safe.
That's good stuff. But this was fun. We'll be back again next month, next month. Girl Talk with the Boys. And as always, I see you because I am you.
You have just listened to the Girl Talk podcast with your host, Melissa Ann. Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or Google Play. Until next time, remember, I see you because I am you.